Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday Talking Points. My name is Carrie Simpson. I am the CEO of Managed Sales Pros, and with me today is Larry Cobrin, the CEO of MSPCFO. Larry, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Carrie. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. To give everybody a little bit of a background, Larry is the founder of MSPCFO, and this company is about 3 years old, and they've been offering the MSPCFO application for about 2 years. His background includes consulting and finance at larger companies and startups. Larry and I have known each other for the entire time that MSPCFO has been in the IT channel. We met at a trade show a few years ago, and it's been exciting to watch your company grow over the last few years. Can you tell us a little bit about your priorities for this year, Larry, before we hop into the content of your webinar today?
Sure. So our company is one where we offer business analytics, business intelligence really for the MSP space, and we're constantly looking to evolve our analytics to move from, really just the source information, what's really driving it, to boil things up even further and further to the top, where the information is as drilled down as possible. So we're constantly looking at new reports, new ways to cut the data, and we just want to make our information as applicable to the market as we can.
Fantastic. Now, one of the reasons I invited you to participate in our webinar today is some previous content that you had shared with us about the difference between MSPs that were continually adding MRR to their pipeline versus the ones that were struggling. And we use that in all of our training at this point in time. And that statement was that 60% of new growth from MSPs should be coming from within their current client base. So I know that's not something that we usually work with our clients on. We usually work with helping them identify net new opportunities. But what I'd like to do today is help the MSPs, our clients and others, identify where their most successful opportunities are going to come from. So to give everyone a little bit of a background, that's the purpose of our webinar today. And Larry, I'm going to let you take it from here. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Carrie. Right, so just as a bit of an overview, in MSPCFO, we really don't do industry benchmarks. We'll do research, and we'll talk about, like we did, identifying from our database of customers where successful ones have found growth. And yes, a lot of them find growth not only through sourcing new business, but by harvesting sales of their existing clients. We mostly look at what's working for an individual MSP. If we look at an MSP in a major metropolitan area that also has 4 locations in other markets, their opportunities for growth are going to be different than a 3-person MSP in a less urban area. So the question isn't, what strategy should every MSP use to grow? The issue is, where can you as an MSP grow based on information about you? So with that, let's take a step back and start thinking about how to use information. And this, I think, is true of just about anybody who wants to use information to improve their business. It really starts at the top. And that is, any MSP has to ask the right questions. There's an old adage that, if somebody drops their keys and they look under a street light that's 4 blocks away, they ask them why they're looking there. Well, that's where the street light is. That shouldn't be the way you do it. You should start with the right questions. Where are my keys? And then figure out how to get the data. If you don't ask the right questions, you're really just wasting your time. Second part is understanding where to find the answers, because once you have the question, then you can start to formulate, well, where is the data to come together to give me information to answer that question? And it's really important this be the right information. There are many ways to cut the data, many ways to pull the information, many ways to get the answer, and some of them may be misleading. So you really want to be very careful that you're answering the question appropriately. You don't want to beat up a client that you think isn't serving you well when, if you look at the data a little more accurately, you would find out it's actually a very profitable client. Once you know where the data is, then it goes part and parcel with transferring that into actionable intelligence. And this is really key, is the actionable part about it. There's a fantastic amount of nice-to-know information out there. Knowing what which clients, which geographies did best, knowing which, oh gosh, I can go on and on about, what your revenue was in a particular month. Well, unless you're going to do something about it specifically, I wouldn't spend a lot of time dwelling on it. knowing which engineers are underperforming so you can work on that engineer, know which clients are underperforming so you can work on those clients, knowing where to focus your marketing dollars so you can do just that, that's actionable intelligence. That's where you get the nice return on your effort. Once you do that, you have to trust the results. This goes back to the first two. The second and third item, understanding and creating, I should say. You have to know that what you're looking at is right, so that when you can do that, you can follow quickly with doing something. Changing your marketing plan, training an engineer, talking to a client about opportunities to improve profitability. If you don't do anything, you kind of take the actionable out of the intelligence, and it's just nice to know information. Everything you should do should be with the goal of doing something with that data, and then it's repeat and adapt. You create a process. You make it a steady flow of taking in the information, using the information, and then looking for new information and using that information. And that's how we've seen people be successful with their business. So with that, the first question is, what are the right questions? And what we're going to look at today is just 3 of them. And there's many, many more that people use to manage their business. The first one is, which of my clients are least profitable? And again, what we're looking at here is not who's the least profitable in the country, which of your clients are the least profitable? Because if you compare your clients with somebody else's, you have different engineer costs. You might have a different vertical market you're serving. It could be a different geographic market that has different pricing structures. But if you're serving your own clients in your own market and there are some clients that are more or less profitable, all of those differences, all of those reasons why they might be different get stripped away. So we'll start with that, and then we can look at the markets, because you want to understand where you're focusing your marketing dollars. Are you doing well with dental? Are you doing well with legal? Once you know that, maybe you reallocate yourself and say, I want to focus more on that space. And also, lastly, going back to the other question, we talked about MRR, it's also projects. Is there opportunity for projects? How do you identify that? Your existing clients are, both in MRR and outside of MRR, your best opportunity for revenue growth and profit growth. So the real thing is understanding where there's an opportunity for that. So let's start by looking at which clients are the least profitable. We have a report where we rank the clients of an MSP. And we rank them mostly based on any metric, but this one we're going to look at is profitability per hour, contribution per hour. So per hour that you spend servicing your client, what is your gross margin? It's a really nice number because it doesn't care how you made the money. You can make it by servicing an agreement efficiently. You can make it by selling product, whether it be cloud or physical, or you can make it by selling transactional time. But if you're sending an engineer out there, is somehow that hour creating profitability for you as well as it is elsewhere? And what you can see here, and what we see in just about all of our clients, is the differentiation, where the profitability per hour could be as low as $66 an hour or as high as $233. And the goal here is always to improve your clients. So you don't necessarily want to hit a national benchmark, but you want to make your worst ones better. And again, we rank them from lowest to highest, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. Once we know which are the underperforming clients, we can then say, let's look at the agreements. Contribution per hour is about the entire relationship, but if they're a bad client, we want to see if they're a bad agreement client. So we can look at this should be over a little, the effective hourly rate for the agreements, which is $119 an hour. It should be over 1 column to the right. That's the average, and the underperforming clients, the bottom 2 quintiles, are at 86 3/4 and 84 1/2. That's significantly below the average. And what we do is we then break that down based on workstation equivalents. We look at how many workstations you're managing, because your effective rate is dollars earned divided by hours worked. And you don't know if you were paid too little for what you did or if you worked too much for what you did. We normalize that for people by looking at number of endpoints they're managing. So you can see how many hours per endpoint and how many dollars per endpoint. That's the utilization and the labor revenue. And you can see that there are some clients, if the first quintile, their dollars per node, their pricing is about right. It's $61 versus $64. It's within spitting distance. Whereas with other clients, with those clients, the hours per node is 40% higher. It's 7.71 versus 0.54. The first quintile clients are overutilizers. Now the second quintile clients are underpayers because their utilization is 0.5 versus 0.54, again within spitting distance, but the pricing is about a third lower. So what we want to do, and what any good reporting should do, is give you actionable information. And my takeaway here from looking at this chart would be, your first quintile clients, you want to have a sit down as to how you can reduce the utilization. Do they need a project? Do they need training? Do you need to change the SLA because too much work is falling into the all-you-can-eat bucket? Whereas the second bucket of clients, you want to have a pricing discussion. Do you have the correct machine counts in your contracts? Is there legacy pricing? Are you pricing the same way you are everyone else? So the starting point is we've identified two segments of clients that are not the most profitable clients. We further identified them as having agreements as being part of the problem, and then further differentiated and say one is a utilization, one is a revenue problem. Because we have that, we've really framed the discussion that you're going to have with the client and the discussion you're going to have internally as to how to make these more profitable. And if you didn't have this information, you might have gone to a low payer and talked to them about being a high utilizer, and it's a totally different conversation, probably one that would have been less effective. And there's real opportunity there. This is an opportunity to just either drive efficiencies or drive extra revenue from your existing client base. So this is the first thing, and there's lots of different ways to look at how your clients are profitable, but this is one we think is our clients have used quite often in driving discussions. So the next question, moving on, is your markets. And the question we want to start with is vertical specialization. We have clients that are, for example, dental focused. 80% of their clients are in healthcare. We have clients that service multiple verticals: hospitality, legal, CPAs, advertising, construction, etc. We wanted to look at how important that was. There's been lots of talk about people doing better or worse, and we wanted to look at our data. So we looked at 100 companies in the MSPCFO database, and we found that 31 of them had at least one vertical market with their biggest vertical market was over 40% of their market concentration. These are, obviously, they self-identify them. 56 of them were between 20 and 40%, and another 13 were below 20%. So of the 100, that was the breakdown. The below 20% would be the least specialized. 56 would be kind of midway, and over in the 31 really had a vertical concentration. So the question was, where do you think they had the best revenue growth? And as it turns out, well, before I show you, I'll ask Carrie, do you know which one had the highest concentration, the highest revenue growth?
The one with one vertical market?
The ones with one vertical market had significant revenue growth in our database, 13% revenue growth. And, this is a growing market, so what is 13% compared to? Well, the least concentrated had the second highest at 5%. So you're either, servicing everybody or you're servicing one person. But kind of being halfway, the one in the middle had only 2% average growth. Being halfway between concentrated and not concentrated is not helping you. Either be concentrated or not, or if you can service a market, you might have more opportunities. This is our definition of actionable intelligence. Pick a vertical. Go deep into it. Acknowledge there might be a transition period until you really are deep into it, but that might drive higher growth if you can service that vertical well. But how do you find which verticals are working out? We have the same report you just saw earlier for a client. This is a sample client, and you can see which markets have higher profitability or have higher hours or have higher revenue. And you can see where you may want to focus your time. Do you want to pick a specialty and dive into it? And this particular one, government, well, government's always government, but healthcare is not one of the more profitable clients. Their contribution per hour is only 77, whereas on average they're pushing 100. We have other clients where healthcare does phenomenally well for them. So it's really where you want to be. And these, you can see legal has done very well. We have clients where legal is not one of the more profitable clients. You want to find what's working with you, and then what do you do with that information? You take it back and you say, well, we're going out with a marketing effort. We're working with managed sales, we're working with whomever. Let's see if we can push ourselves into one segment, because that's going to drive higher profitability, and that will get us to this concentration, which hopefully can drive growth. And this was an interesting thing we found from the data, and this is something that we think people can take away from it. So to continue moving on, and I'm going a little fast, Carrie. I know that I am not quite going to fill my speaking time, but if there are any questions, obviously I'm happy to address those as well. The next thing we want to look at is there an opportunity for a large project? This is, again, working with your existing client base. Well, when would you sell a large project? You sell a large project when somebody is at end of warranty, sure. You sell it when it's time, when the agreement is up. But maybe there are other symptoms. So what we can look at is look at how the tickets are occurring and also the amount of time that goes in, because the tickets per node is a good indication that you have frequent problems. And as that number, what this shows is how it's growing. Anything above 1 means there are more problems than there were in the past. We can also show complexity of problems. How much time are you spending per ticket? Are these, real system conflicts versus password resets? As that number grows, your client now has more issues that are more complex. That might be an opportunity to sell more to that client. So what we can do is we can isolate just these clients that have an increasing amount of tickets per node, an increasing amount of time per ticket. These are clients that probably are in need of a systems refresh. And listen, the clients, they love you. I'm sure they all do. But they don't want to be on the phone with you any longer than they have to. They're losing productivity as well. So if you can identify where they're having systems issues and start the conversation early, you may be able to get that extra project in that you didn't think otherwise would have been available. And this is something that we recently rolled out to our clients, and people have used it effectively in identifying when it should be time to begin that discussion for a systems refresh. So what are the broader takeaways? One is it's all about the process. If you use data consistently and accurately, it will help you. And that's what we want to promote, using the information to grow your bottom line. Of course you want to grow your top line, but you want to grow it profitably. And growing your top line is not the only way to grow your bottom line. At the end of the day, there's one metric that matters, and that's how much money you can take home at the end of the year. That number is usually driven by sales, but it's also driven by intrinsic profitability. And all of that is based on using a process, using your business intelligence to make good decisions. The second issue is the reporting. It's useful, but it's not everything. When we talk to our clients and our prospects, we always say that reporting, if it's good, will put you on second base. It will put you in baseball terms in scoring position, but it's up to you to actually finish the process. If any reporting process has identified for you a market where to focus on, you need to focus on that market. If we focused a client who's overutilizing you, you need to talk to your account managers, your operations managers, to find out why that client is overutilizing. If they're underpaying, you talk to them about why they're underpaying. If there's an engineer who's less productive than their peers, you need to identify the source of that issue. We point people, as other reporting systems, as to the source of the problem. And we try as hard as we can to tell you as much as we can about the problem. But reporting is not going to train your employees. Reporting is not going to change your marketing strategy. You're going to do all that, and that's what's really important. It goes back to originally, you have to do something. Execution is on you, but what reporting should do is maximize your return on your effort. You don't have to boil the ocean to find out where your problems are. You can focus on the small problems that cause big issues with your profitability. And the last part, and this is more of a general one, is you need to understand what we're talking about. You need to say to your client, don't say to your client, you have an increasing trend of time per tickets and tickets per node. Talk to your client. If you can put it to them and say, we're noticing there's an increased number and complexity of tickets. We think this may be the reason for a systems issue. If you can't explain it, don't execute against it, because somebody's going to ask you a question and you may not be able to respond to it, and then you look as if you're not as comfortable with the data that you're presenting. So that's really what we have, what I want to talk about, how everyone can use information to drive the profitability in their business. We've been doing this, as Kari said, for about 2 years now with our product. We did consulting before that. And the feedback we've gotten is that people are using it well. I know there are other reporting platforms that people are very, very happy with. And it's funny, we do talk to clients on occasion who say, listen, we're growing too much to focus on data, and that just sort of, obviously they're the client and they can do whatever they want, but that just kills me because I think how much better they could be if they focused everything intelligently. Um, and that's really what we're trying to help the market with.
So does everybody have the data that they would require in their PSA? Like, is the data good enough to help them make decisions?
You know, we've onboarded probably 300 clients now and looked at their data. I would argue that probably 5% of them don't have anywhere near good enough data. And that's a very small number, but it's a real number. Most everybody is, then if you think about it, the other side of the spectrum is 5% has their data in there perfectly. Because a lot of what you need for reporting isn't what you need for the core purpose of a PSA. The core purpose of a PSA is to run a ticketing system and create invoices. If it can't do that, it's failed. Metrics is a secondary benefit of a good reporting system, and it's treated as a secondary benefit, which is why MSPCFO and other companies are in business. What we do is we work with our clients, as anyone should, to make sure the data is right. Are your agreement additions set up properly? Do you have the correct costs in for your employees? Are you booking your agreements correctly? That's important when you onboard to a reporting system. You know, as I say to our clients when they onboard, we should treat the first week, 2 weeks, even a month as a process to identify where the data is not telling you what you think it should be telling you. We can fix all of that, and then you can use it to make good decisions. Because if you don't trust the data, or you inappropriately trust the data, you have to work with somebody who understands what the data should be saying. You can make decisions, supposed informed decisions, but they have the wrong information, and you can actually work against yourself. So to your point, most everybody has data that can be worked with, or at least it's cleanable, easily cleanable.
And what agreement metrics do people care most about? Like, what are you specifically looking for?
No, that's a great question. You know, first of all, I want to come back and say people talk about agreements all the time. Agreements aren't the only thing. If you have a bad agreement, and this is just as an aside, if you have a bad agreement, but it's a good relationship, then it's a good client. For example, we had a client we worked with, and they had one of their largest clients had a bad agreement, but that client bought $40,000 of boxes from them every month. That was a profitable client. If you beat them up about the agreement, well, then you kind of throw out the baby with the bathwater. It was a good relationship. But that being said, agreements are very important because they are your recurring revenue. Because also when you sell your business, a lot of your valuation is going to come from your agreement metrics. So the question is, your question was, what metrics do people care about? One of the ones that people now are focusing on pretty strongly is the efficiency of the agreement. Efficiency is something that's somewhat similar to effective rate. Effective rate is hours worked, dollars earned divided by hours worked. Efficiency is a metric where you look at what's the value of the work that you did versus what you charged. You know, you're going to charge your client, let's say, $3,000 a month regardless of what you do. Well, if you put in 10 hours, you put in 20 hours, they still get charged $3,000. But the truth is, and this is true especially with larger MSPs, not every hour is the same. If you have a client, let's take two MSP clients. They each have 20 hours of time against them on their agreements. Well, the effective rate would be 3,000 divided by 20. That'd be $150 an hour. Both clients look fine. But if you think one client for those 20 hours only used your call center, everything they did could be resolved by the call center. Your call center bills out at $100 an hour. Well, you've delivered to them $2,000 of value. You would have charged somebody off the street $100 an hour for this person. They used 20 hours. That's $2,000. They paid you $3 for $2,000. That's an efficiency of 1.5. If you consider the other client, and every issue they had was complicated, and they required only your level 3 support that billed out at $200 an hour, well, then you've given them 20 hours at $200 an hour. That's $4,000. They also paid you $3,000. So the efficiency on the second agreement is 0.75. Two agreements with the exact same effective rate have dramatically different efficiencies. And it's a very nice metric because it gives you an idea of how you're pricing it. what are you pricing the client versus the value that you're delivering? And that's one that a lot of people now are focusing on to make sure they're putting value towards the agreements. Because it cuts both ways. It's not just the clients with the low efficiency, the ones that you're not collecting enough money for the value of the work that you do. It's the other side of it as well. We have clients that will frequently address their high efficiency clients. So you have an MSP and you have clients that pay you $2,000 a month and maybe you put in an hour. When they look at the reports, they've identified those clients as ones they want to do extra work for. Because those are your at-risk clients. They're the ones that are wonderful. You want to keep them around. You want to make sure they don't feel underserved. But how do you know they're underserved? You can look at the efficiency. They're only getting $200 of value, only get 1 hour or 2 hours of work, and they're paying you good money. You want to make sure you give them extra time and extra work. So it does cut both ways. Yeah, so to answer your question shortly, it's the efficiency of the agreement, the pricing efficiency, that I found people are paying more and more attention to. It's a little bit more robust than the effective rate. And people are using that to, find good and bad agreements.
Well, I like that we've left the slide about execution up here. I think if there's been one takeaway from all of the Tuesday Talking Points sessions that we've done over the last year, it's been that it all comes down to executing on information. So implementing a system like this and then ignoring the data that it's producing isn't that valuable. Can you tell me a little bit about how somebody would get started working with MSPCFO if they were interested in adding this to their company?
No, of course. We're always looking to work with more clients, help more people. If you want to find out more about MSPCFO, you can go to our website, www.mspcfo.com. There's a contact form. If you fill that out, we'll reach out and we'll set up a demo for you, and we'll show you what we can do. We can even bring your data in, so you can look at a demo with your own data. We have that will give you a quick idea of what might be needing in terms of fixing, and also give you a quick idea of what we can show you. We find it somewhat resonates, the demos resonate a little bit better when people are looking at their own data versus sample data. Right now we only work with ConnectWise customers, but we are hoping to launch AutoTask by the end of the year. The process for setting it up, it's fairly straightforward. We work with the reporting API. It's actually the member API now from ConnectWise. You set up a member API for us, you put the credentials into the system, and we'll do our feeds. We feed our information 4 times a day. For what we do, 4 times a day is really more than enough because we don't do what some of the other operations-oriented dashboarding companies do. We're not going to tell you when your ticket is approaching non-compliance in terms of the SLA. What we are going to tell you is, how are you doing for clients overall? You don't invoice more than 2 or 3 times a month, so updating the data 4 times a day seems to be sufficient. If you look at it more than 4 times a day, you're probably looking at it too often. The reporting API that we use also is it's seamless to the system. We don't put anything on there's no widget we put onto your machine, and we have never gotten feedback that it slowed down anybody's system. We originally started working with direct database connections, and that would slow down people's systems. We stopped doing that for a variety of reasons.
Okay, and since you are ConnectWise integrated, will you be attending IT Nation in a couple of weeks?
I am looking forward to being at IT Nation in 2 weeks. We'll have a booth. We'll be around.
Do you have your booth number? Where do people find you?
We're around 210, 212. I forget the number exactly.
Okay.
We're really excited. This is what we do. Obviously, as with other companies that serve the MSP space, this was, if I can go a little bit on how we were founded by 2 people who are less involved in the business now, who owned MSPs, who were trying to answer these questions. And my background's not as much in the MSP space. This is all we focus on. We try to help people understand their data better. There's no question that we did not split the atom. We did not create cold fusion. There is nothing that we do that can't be done otherwise. But this is all we do, and we're pretty good at it. We're pretty efficient about it. We've gotten great feedback from our clients, and we focus on making sure our clients are happy with what they have. So please, by all means, come by IT Nation. I'm pretty sure we'll have custom M&Ms if you'd like them. And we'd be happy to talk to you about any kind of data needs you have.
I just spent way too much time trying to come up with a catchy M&M themed something, so I regret that.
Your company name is too long.
MS-M&Ms? Close enough. Well, thank you for joining us today, Larry. I really appreciate you giving us that time. For everybody that's watching today, this will be available live on our YouTube channel as soon as it finishes downloading, so you can look for it. If you'd like to share it with other members of your company or with your peers, it'll be available to you tomorrow. Larry, again, thank you very much. And can you just leave us one more time with your contact information?
Sure. The best place to reach us is on our website, www.mspcfo.com, down here in the corner. You can reach out to us. Our phone number is there. You can reach out to us by email or fill out the contact form. We're always happy to talk.
All right. Thank you so much. And once again, I'm Carrie Simpson from Managed Sales Pros, and you can find us at managedsalespros.com. And if you'd like to learn more about MSPCFO directly from us, or you'd like to learn about our services, you can always find us at hello@managedsalespros.com. Thanks so much for watching today, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Carrie.